You by my side like a parakeet dog. Nephilim manifest alien form. Forever immortal, forever reborn. Flip out the devil if he locking horns. Give taps to the angels of heavens indoors. Selfish and selfless, forever a god with Elvis's charms. Elves and the fawns and the fairies come round, so we melt in their hearts right from the start. To all of the fairy women listening, I'm summoning all of you to watch this video. So if you find this somehow through this stream of this algorithm, good for you. Good for you, because you answered that fairy call. Just got off of an incredible podcast with Dane Thomas. Okay, go check that out on Savage Shaman Seminars on IMC TV. Let's get started today. We're going to be talking all about fairies. How do you know if you are fae and that you have a relationship to fairies? Now I'm going to be curtailing this more towards female fairies, okay? If you're a guy and you want to be a fairy, I mean, that's your own choice, okay? I'm not going to sit here and give you advice based on, you know, things I have no idea about. However, I do work with King Akurbo, who is basically a very secret brother of Oberon, who is the, you know, the king of all fae and so forth. If you've ever heard of Midsummer Night's Dream, okay? If you're interested in knowing if you are a fairy or not, this is the video to watch. Number one, you gotta have a deep sense of belief, self-belief. Fairies stay alive based on their belief. We know that. If you believe in a fairy, it will be alive in your life. This is what I've understood in different relationships. If I've ever, you know, been on a date with a fairy, and I mean fairy by a woman who has the archetype of somebody who has this fairy essence, usually more so related to the diva or the starlet archetypes, and the maiden archetype, which is the main feminine archetype where the other ones start to stem from, close to the muse and so forth for the artist. So the fairy archetype is basically blending the dark feminine with the light feminine. This is what you first got to understand, okay? And these fairies, like moths to a flame, get attracted to what I do, my content, and so forth, okay? Fairies are very fun, okay? Let me just say that. Fairies are a lot of fun, incredible playfulness and ability to make any situation light. A very powerful way of doing that. Because they travel in the liminal spaces, they're able to integrate that embodied wisdom. So what type of fairy you are is according to which element, which chakra point, which is strongest within you. Okay, so if you're an earth fairy, you're very good in your rootedness and your root chakra. If you're a sacral fairy, you're very more so associated with the water fae, okay? Maybe even undines, maybe even nymphs and so forth, okay? All you need to do as a fae is trust and believe in yourself, okay? That's number one. That's number one. And anybody who's in a partnership with you, they've got to believe in you too. You will feel that something is missing if there is a lack of support with what you're trying to do and who you're trying to be in this world. So a lot of fairies, they'll be a little bit rebellious at times, right? They'll go and sneak out at night, or they'll do like little activities that might be a little bit fringe or taboo or transgressive, but that's only to get the attention, you know, the light back on themselves. It's almost like they don't need that sense of validation, but they're also like so connected to nature and so connected to this physical world, you will notice their essence lighting up any place, okay? So fairies usually answer to your wishes, and fairies are also very, very helpful and compassionate people. Ultimately, I think if you are a woman and you have that fairy essence, either you incorporate or you grew up with like fairy tales and things like that growing up, you know, connecting you to the fae. I know, there are different places around the world that really have a lot of myths which include fairies in them, okay? From, you know, Ireland or Dublin, it could be places in the UK, you know, places around the world where fairy literature, fairy lore, okay? Maybe you're Dutch, maybe you're Finnish, okay? You have this lore that connects you to the imagery of the fae from your culture, okay? So first of all, understand that. Usually we want to step away, okay, step away from the modern stereotypical fairy that we see, okay, like the Tinkerbells or the, you know, fairies from Fairly Odd Parents. Step away from that stuff, man.
Step away, because that is going to actually saturate the Fey wisdom that is already out there and that you actually have access to. You just need to summon it. You need to call it forth. Fairies in the forest, if you're hearing me right now, please protect me from this as I walk through here. Very, very easy ways to call upon the protection of the fairies if you are a fairy yourself, okay? Because the fairy realm will recognize you as a direct descendant, okay, of that path working. One thing that I would definitely advise that you do is have some level of an embodiment practice as a woman, okay? If you are going too much into the clouds, which a lot of fairies can get stuck in the astral a lot, thinking in air, they're air-like beings, right? They're floating through the air, floating through space, very flighty with their energy. So sometimes you need to take that information that you're getting, those massive downloads and intuition that you're getting, and bring it in through your heart and your heart space, okay? So from all of that overabundance of all that information and the gunk that you've accumulated from your spiritual process, you need to release the gunk and bring in the wisdom and place it right where your heart is, and then speak from that. Speak from the heart as a fairy. That's the way that you are going to influence the world around you. If you're thinking about being an influencer, it's the influence that you want to have for the world around you. Some people might say you're ditzy or you're a little bit distracted with your energy. You kind of have that shiny object syndrome, right? Like a lot of fairies do, okay? I understand that. Understand that fairies are not all love and light. They're actually very mischievous, okay? There's sinister folklore about fairies and their dangers. So understand that there is a dark side to everything, just like there's the dark feminine and the light feminine. Usually they represent very vast topics or different things, right? Immortality, sexual depravity, death, types of things. Couple of things. Number one, lemons and limes are poisonous to fairies. If you are a fairy and you're taking a lot of lemonade and lemon drinks, this is actually, you're going to have a weird adverse reaction in your system that you'll start to notice. You'll feel almost like you're tripping for some reason. If you're getting a lot of, let's say, dark fairies influencing you, you can use silver. If you wear real silver, you have it on yourself somewhere where you can actually counteract any of that dark fae energy. This is all from King of Kerbo's stuff. And if you want to avoid getting hypnotized by a fairy's energy, you just put on sunglasses. So here's an interesting factoid. Fairies love cream, okay? Don't get any ideas. Alcohol obviously also intoxicates them. They like to drink and so forth. You know, Tinkerbell said it herself, trust a fairy and she will never betray you. Loyalty is actually very important to the fae. The fae don't mind sharing, but there is a loyalty factor to it. Because they're so affected by magic, oftentimes fairies will give you random messages. If you are a fae in human form and you start exploring fairies, or maybe you played with fairies in childhood as a little girl, or you had some of these different experiences where you would go, wow, like I'm being drawn to this for some reason. That's how you would know. And you would get a lot of messages from the natural world. Okay, so they'll leave messages on trees and leaves and acorns and things like that. Maybe if you notice like a carving on a tree or like a weirdly shaped stone or something like this, they leave their messages through nature. Fairies are known for their unearthly beauty. When you look at them, you think there's something non-human about them. Like their facial features, just their ethereal quality that they give off. You're like, this person is not real, they're surreal in some way. But it's like a beauty that you can't really pinpoint or describe. Fairies love to incorporate a lot of plants, okay? So if you have a lot of house plants, if you have a lot of, you're just trying to bring nature indoors in some sense, or remind yourself of nature indoors, you kind of have that pull towards that fairy energy. What are the powers of the fae? Number one, they can teleport to different dimensions. Number two, they can shapeshift, okay? They can change their physical body by not really, like they can do something like a strange diet and they will like lose pounds on their physical body. They'll transform their physical body like crazy. A lot of fairies don't gain that much weight very fast. They're very light in their beingness. Fairies are very good at healing low vitality. They can even restore the emotions of others, people who are having a tough time to release emotionally, or they have some kind of a metaphysical block. Fairy medicine or fae medicine is very good at just cutting that out. They have this thing called photokinesis as well. Photokinesis is this ability to control light in nature. Basically, you can channel nature through your body. I've understood this with relationships with certain fairies in my life that I've had, that they'll sometimes try to get you to do their bidding. Like, I'm not gonna do that for you, okay? You gotta figure that one out yourself, okay? But hey, fairies, sometimes they're like, do this for me, do that for me, go there, do this. Glamour magic is something that fairies love using. This is the ability to control perception or control illusion through the beautification process. So, you know, maybe your mascara has a specific kind of energy that is being tapped into. The next thing you will notice is that you're showing up in people's dreams a lot, okay? And you're going, I don't know, I didn't plan that, right? It just kind of happened. So you might notice this kind of level of influence that you have. Everybody kind of sees you as a lighthouse. So they'll be like, oh, that's the bright, you know, energy. So sometimes it might bring in darker energies towards you too. And you are not per se a light being and you're not per se a dark being, okay? You're just right in the middle. You're fully integrated. You're aligned. And I think, well, I'm very attracted to fairies, and you know, that's primarily my brand Shakti archetype. We'll explain that more in Primal Sutra. So a lot of fairies on Earth itself actually reside in this other place called the Ripple Star, and it's actually a part of Earth. It could be a part of Hollow Earth for all we know, you know, in Inner Shambhala and so forth. But the secrets of the fairies are woven into a lot of music, ballads, ensembles, overtures, like different dips in music. You will start to notice that fairy frequency coming in. It's cool because they have this badass quality to them, but then they also have this very soft, receptive, feminine, like caring, nurturing, you know, quality to them, which is a great combo. Like, you want that in a girlfriend, right? Like, you want that quality. You want her to be like soft and, you know, really submissive around you, but also she can carry a knife behind her back, and if there's anybody fucking with your relationship, she can turn it up to 100 real quick. Like, that's a dangerous woman. Dangerous woman. I think Ariana Grande is definitely a fairy. Okay, what are some fairy archetypes that you can draw from in culture? Dove Cameron, Ziani, Blood Nymph is a good one. There's a lot of other artists, but they're not coming to mind right now. But if you guys type some examples of fairies that you've seen in this real world, like FKA Twigs has a fairy look to her for sure. I mean, a really obvious one would be Grimes, okay? Shout out Elon Musk. And also Lily Collins, okay? Lily Collins is a very big fae quality to her. She has a fairy tattoo too. So that's how, like, you are going to get signs of this, okay, in culture. I'm not just talking trash, okay? You can look at a lot of the fairy shows that are on Netflix and so forth and gain an understanding of this tech. Like how the fire fairy, you know, taps into her anger and so forth, right? Like, it makes sense when you start exploring these more mystical topics and realms. And I know some Shakespearean Indian dude on YouTube is telling you this, but hey, you know, you might as well embrace it and lean into this archetype if you really want to be the baddest fairy of all time, okay? You gotta show up like that. You gotta take over, girl. You gotta create your own fae empire. If you are a woman and you need a fairy attunement, I do energy work as well. So if you are interested, we can take you through the protocol to really help you amplify that fairy influence, because that transformation is just gonna make you easy throughout life. You're gonna be smoother and a lot less clunky. You're gonna be floating through this world, okay? That's the way I understand it, at least, and that's what I've experienced through a few attunements that I've done. Thank you for listening. I hope you have an incredible day. Primal Sutra is not only here to serve men, but the women as well, okay? We understand that women need to explore these archetypes, artist seduction stuff too. They need to understand it, guys. They need to understand the tech. women love to learn as well, right? Men love to learn, but women really love to learn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you. I got a session right now, man. Busy man, okay? Busy man. All right, let's get it. Upward spiral. May we never be the same again. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hope you enjoyed this today. Oh.